Eagles Playoff Live Q&A presented by Toyota, proud automotive partner of the NFL. We are here live at the River Rink in Philadelphia, in Center City here. Playoff atmosphere, absolutely getting ready for a huge game Sunday at the Link. Ashlyn Sullivan, Dave Zangaro, Barrett Brooks, and Reuben Frank here with you, our Eagles experts that have been in the locker room all week long, getting ready for this playoff atmosphere. There are so many Eagles fans here gearing up for Sunday. Come on, let them hear you. Barrett, you got to get them going, if anything.
For sure. Hey, we already know. We already got a vendetta out. Number 8. You got it.
All you need is an enemy, right?
Right.
Swoop, what a special guest.
Barrett doesn't even need a microphone.
He's ready.
He is ready. Swoop, come on in. Come on in. It's awesome here at the River Rink. You got ice skating, you got games, you got food, everyone gearing up for a huge game on Sunday at the Link, and definitely an easy football game to talk about, an easy game to get excited for against the Los Angeles Rams. We know the Eagles handled them pretty well in Week 12, but Dave, I think the biggest thing to remember for this week coming up on Sunday, this is a different football team, this Rams team right now.
Yeah, they both are, but I mean, I still think the Eagles are the better team, and they showed that in Week 12, and crazy things can happen. If the Rams are at this point, they've earned the right to be here. The Eagles are the better team, so if they take care of business on Sunday, we're talking NFC Championship game, and I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, Barrett, what do you think?
I think this is a game where we know we're the better team, and the preparation that these guys are having is just like it did when they were, playing, during the regular season. And with that preparation, they're going to be ready to go out there and really just execute what they've been doing for the past, 17 games or 18 games now.
Yeah. What do you think, Drew?
Yeah, I think if both teams play well, the Eagles win. If both teams play poorly, the Eagles win. If the Eagles play well and the Rams don't, the Eagles win. The only scenario where the Rams win is if they play really, really well and the Eagles go out and don't play well, and I don't anticipate that happening.
No, not with the momentum that this Eagles team has, right? And we're expecting snow in the forecast on Sunday, so that's exciting in itself, just that atmosphere. But when you talk about a snow game, you're talking about basically a running football team, a hard-nosed defensive team, which is exactly what the Eagles are, so this really favors the matchup. But Dave, you talked about it a lot in the locker room this week. It's the physicality, right? Who is going to be the more physical team on Sunday? Well, that's the Eagles.
Yeah, they're absolutely the more physical team, and they've shown that throughout this season. They showed it in Week 12. I mean, you don't run for 250 yards and 314 as a team if you're not the more physical squad. And it's something that the Eagles, like earlier in the season when they're 2-2, they're searching for this identity. They're talking about it in the locker room. What is it? What is it? I mean, the identity is they're going to punch you in the mouth. And that's on offense. That's on defense. And whenever you're the aggressor in a football game, I like your odds. And that's nothing against the Rams. I think that they're a good football team. They're more of a finesse team. And it's gotten them this far. I think they have really good players. And they do have some tough players. I don't want to take that away from them. Number 8, who Barrett hates, is a really good player. We're competing with Swoop, and it's not going to go well for us. Number 8's a really good player. He's a tough player. Puka Nacua is a tough player, but the Eagles across the board are tough, and I think that matters in a game like this.
Yeah, Barrett, I know you're always pro-physical. We're going to see physical Sunday.
And I think the difference is the trenches. You look at our offensive line, they're bigger than the smaller, finesse type of defensive line that the Rams have. They want to move around. They want to get up the field because they're a fast, team that, wants to create pressure from their quickness. Well, the Eagles are used to going against teams, and they're used to beating up on teams. And if you move and you're trying to get to a gap and you can't get to your gap because that big guy's sitting there, that means it's going to be an open-up gap. And that's what happened to them in Week 12. They couldn't get to the gaps, which led to, 255 yards rushing by Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, and Rube, I think when you look at the physicality matchup and you look at this Rams defensive line, which has had a lot of success as of late, 9 sacks against the Vikings on Monday night, but I know we talked to a couple Eagles offensive linemen that it might not have been the Rams being that good where the Vikings were a bit unprepared, but that matchup between the defensive line of the Rams and the Eagles offensive line, talk about physical, that's the matchup.
Yeah, and they have some talented young guys on that D-line, but they're smaller. They're built to rush the quarterback. They're not built to handle 50 rushing attempts by the other team, which is what they might get on Sunday. They're not built to play in cold, snow, windy. This is a dome team from the West Coast. They're kind of a finesse team, and I just don't think they're built for the challenge that faces them Sunday.
Absolutely, and when you talk about Jalen Hurts and this matchup, and really, it's every week that the quarterback is the story here in Philadelphia, but I feel like especially this week, very much more so because of the lack of explosive plays against the Packers. I think we forget that the Eagles still won that game against the Packers at some point.
Yeah, and for most of the season when we talk about the quarterback play and the passing offense, you want to see more, you want to see more, you want to see more. And I think that's true in the playoffs, but to me it matters a little bit less because you're doing whatever you have to do to win the game and advance. I think the one thing when we talk about the passing offense, you want it to be there when they need it to be there. And if you're worried about that, I understand it. I mean, because it's not like this is a new topic this season, but they still have a great offensive line. They still have pass catchers in A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, and they have a quarterback who has done it before. So I don't know if they're going to be able to flip the switch, but if that's the hope, I think there's a good chance they'll be able to do that.
Well, and it's important to remember that Jalen, he hasn't been great, but he hasn't turned the ball over. This team wins something like 94% of the time when he doesn't turn it over. And that's big. When you're not throwing a high volume, when you're kind of conservative, you can't afford to turn the ball over. He's gone 158 consecutive passes without an interception. It's the 7th longest streak in history. And that really gives them an advantage. I mean, if this team doesn't turn the ball over on offense with the defense they have, they're going to win almost every game.
You're not going to hurt yourself. As long as they're not hurting themselves by creating turnovers, playing undisciplined football. And, that's one thing that they pride themselves on, playing disciplined football, not hurting themselves in turnovers, but making sure that they play a game what they want to play. Yeah. They influence the way they want to play. And we all know what they do when it comes to AJ. They're going to overcorrect when it comes to AJ. So AJ, they're going to probably get the ball to him early. Maybe they can get up on a lead, which will allow them then to turn their dogs loose against, this offense of the Rams, because they want to try to run the ball. If we can stop that, make them one-dimensional, I think it'll help us out a lot.
Yeah, when you think about Jalen Hurts early in the year, he was throwing for a lot of yards in the first 4 games, and it wasn't getting them anywhere because he turned the ball over 7 times in 4 games. So if you have to ask yourself, which version of the offense do you want? Well, it's one where he plays clean football and they win the game. I mean, that's how simple that can be.
Yeah, absolutely. And now let's check in with the next member of our team. Ashley Hall is standing by with a fan question presented by Dunkin'. America runs on Dunkin'. Ash, what do you got?
First question is from our friend Max, and he wants to ask this from his favorite analyst, and that would be Rube.
Hey, Rube. So with the Nakobe Dean injury, how do you think Vic Fangio and this Eagles defense is going to be able to adapt to? And also with Nick Morrow being signed to the practice squad, do you think you will see him at all in the playoffs?
I didn't catch the second part of that, but I think we're going to see a lot of Jeremiah Trotter Jr. I just think he's more suited to that role than Oren Burks, who's really a special teamer. I just don't think he's great in coverage. We kind of saw some breakdowns from that standpoint on Sunday. Look, it's a big loss either way. Nakobe was playing at such a high level, physical against the run, great in coverage, active around the ball, forcing turnovers. It's a big loss. I mean, it's like there's nobody who can replace him. Maybe Trott's dad, I don't know, but he's not around. But yeah, I think Trotter. I think it'll be a mix of Burks and Trott, but I think it might be 2/3 Trott and 1/3 Oren Burks.
Yeah, and I got to think with that matchup there, but with Vic Fangio and Nick Sirianni not saying who the starter was going to be, I got to think that's competitive advantage. I would have a hard time imagining you're splitting reps in a playoff game because one of them has to come off special teams as well, but maybe they like both enough to give them both some reps here.
I actually think they will, and the second part of that question was about Nick Morrow. I think that's why he's here, to be the special teamer, to kind of fill in the gaps whenever you have either Oren Burks or Jeremiah Trotter Jr. playing more on defense. But, if you're looking at this Rams offense and Sean McVay, who is a really good coach and a really good game plan designer, that's where he's starting this week. he's looking at the hole with no Nakobe Dean, because the one thing Nakobe Dean has been so good at all year, his eye discipline, right? And this Rams offense with their pre-snap motion, they put so much stress on the linebacker position in the middle of the field, and Nakobe's been so good at that. If you have backups in there, whether it's Burks or Trotter, that's what he's going to try to go after. So the Eagles have to be ready for that. Vic Fangio has to be ready for that. They're going to miss Nakobe Dean, but they have to make up for it in other ways.
Yeah, I think they'll play situational football with both of them. They'll probably have Burks on first, second down, usually because he's one of those guys that, he's a bigger guy, maybe he stops a run. He's not as good or not as disciplined in the passing game as Trot Jr. I think Trot Jr. could do more from the passing game than anything.
Yeah, Nakobe Dean definitely a brutal blow to this Eagles defense as we now go back out to Ashley, who's standing by with another fan question presented by Duncan.
Yeah, guys, I have my new girl crew here. We have Caitlin, Crystal, and Danielle. So we love it. And they got a question that's related to weather.
So how do we think a team coming from, the warm weather in LA is going to react in a really cold climate in Philadelphia?
Not good, girlies. What do you got?
We didn't.
They asked about the Rams being a dome team, of course, used to the sunshine, the beach, and they got to come to snowy Philadelphia. It's not going to go well, I don't think.
The weather. Yeah, I mean, one thing about McVay, I mean, he's had success on the East Coast more than most West Coast teams. So that is out there. They've won games out here, certainly on the East Coast. But yeah, I mean, look, this is a typical West Coast California team. Eagles were out there at practice. What day were we out there, Dave, when it was snowing?
Thursday.
It was yesterday. That's right. It was snowing out there. It was cold. They've been out at the link for 2 weeks in a row, cold weather. They haven't been in their indoor bubble, and part of that is the bubble's tough on their ankles and knees. But I think a big part of it is it's kind of what Dave was talking about before. It's just really emphasizing the physicality, being outdoors in bad conditions, and getting them used to playing like that. And when they go out there Sunday, the Eagles will be used to it. The Rams sure won't. They were just in Glendale, for crying out loud.
Yeah, it's a big deal in this game, and the more there's no way to replicate this if you're the Rams. You can pump in crowd noise and get ready for that kind of thing, but cold and snow, you're not going to have that.
Can you pump in wind?
I don't know, maybe.
A lot of fans.
A lot of fans, yeah. I think that it is definitely an advantage for the Eagles in this game, and it matters. That stuff matters. And you also have the Rams on a short week after a really emotional week last week. I think there are just things tilted against them in this game.
I think it absolutely is a disadvantage when you look at the Rams and everything they've had to go through, especially when that last game was supposed to be a home game in Los Angeles. They have to go to Arizona. They get a short week, a really short week, to the point where we're normally used to West Coast teams going to East Coast and vice versa. They only go out 2 days before. They're not flying out till Saturday. And I got to imagine it's just to get a game plan together and to heal up your injured players. They frankly just don't have a lot of time, Barrett.
Yeah, I mean, for them to fly to Arizona, play the game, fly back, that was the day in which the Eagles could go and game plan. They game planned. Then they got to fly back out on Saturday, fly out tomorrow morning, fly out here, and how are they going to get acclimated? They're probably going to fly to the hotel, go through their meetings over there, go through their breakdowns, and then they're going to play on Sunday.
Yeah.
It's really, really tough being a guy that's done that before. When you fly from the East Coast to the West Coast, it was definitely an advantage, going in the direction of the West Coast team. Same thing, they fly to the East, whereas, elements out here, it's real elements out here. I don't know if it won't be a plus for them. They'll have to adjust to it, but we're already adjusted to it. We've already had a day up on game planning, and at this point, you're talking about a team that's a better team than they are at this point.
I want to ask you guys something, though, because a lot of times we hear when there's inclement weather that it can kind of be a neutralizer, right? Certainly I think the Eagles' play style is they might benefit from it, but what do you guys make of the idea that it can kind of be a neutralizer? If the Eagles are the better team, and I think they are, clearly from a talent standpoint, is there something to that idea, that it can neutralize the playing field a little bit?
The great equalizer. I think there is something to that. And we'll see, because it does limit your ability to do some things that you're good at. Andy Reid used to always say, the worse the weather is, the more you should throw the ball, because it's easier for the receivers to know where they're going, and it's tougher to cover just with your feet. to be where you want to be. So we'll see if that's true. Andy really didn't need much of an excuse to throw the ball anyway. But
yeah, I was thinking like the better the weather, you also pass.
Yeah,
Everything you pass.
But the thing was it was easier for the receivers to adjust than the guys in coverage. But so you can't completely throw out your game plan if there's some snow on the ground. But yeah, as far as what you said, I do think there is something to that, and we'll see if it's real on Sunday.
Yeah, and then from the trench aspect of it, offensive line knows where they're going. They know the snap count. They get off on the ball, and it's really going to be tough for smaller defensive linemen to push on guys like Jordan Mailata, to push on Dickerson, to push on I mean, come on now. Both of the tackles are like 350. And I mean, both of the guards are 350. One tackle's like 360, 365, and the other tackle's like 330. And those little guys trying to push those big guys, it's going to be tough. And them coming off the ball, and they're trying to dig in. They might slide a little bit. I just think, after a while, it just gets real old on that defensive line, and they just give it up.
Yeah, you talk about the difference in these lines for the Rams and the Eagles. Eagles offensive line, obviously monsters, and you just mentioned casual 350s. Rams defensive line known for being much smaller, but also very shifty, very fast to the quarterback. So I think that's the matchup to watch on Sunday. But let's go back out to Ashley now, who's standing by with another fan question presented by Duncan. America runs on Duncan. Ashley, what do you got?
Our next question comes from Brian and Darielle, and it's on a pretty hot topic. I'm not sure you guys will be able to guess what.
Is anyone on the panel worried about the officiating crew the Eagles being 0-3 against them, and the head officiator made that call to C.J. Gardner-Johnson? Anybody really concerned about that, or what? I don't know.
It's a great question, and they're talking about obviously the referee crew, the Eagles being 0-3 against them. That's the same one that made the call on C.J. Gardner-Johnson to inject him into the game. I just think the Eagles are going to use that more as fuel than anything. I don't think they need any more excuses to have another enemy to use anything as fuel, but the record does say it doesn't go well for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more about knowing the referee crew, and all NFL teams do know that. They study that, and they make sure their players are aware of that. I'm guessing like CJ's been talked to a lot this week.
Probably a couple times.
This crew, make sure you don't get in trouble again. Barry, you can probably speak to this. Like, how much is that talked about? Maybe a little bit more than when you played now, but like, which crew is out there. You know what they like to call, what they don't like to call, and what you can maybe get away with.
That was big for us, because when I was playing, because certain refs let you get away with certain stuff, and other refs call games a little bit more closely. And when you're dealing with a ref that calls things more closely, you got to be more slick. Like it even went so bad as that. All right, if you have your white jerseys on, you wear white gloves, and they have darker jerseys on, you will put darker gloves on so you don't get the holding calls. And vice versa. So all those things are talked about. They invest in those type of understandings. And really make sure that they know. And plus, they probably made a couple phone calls to everybody up at the office, like, hey, you see this guy, he's been calling it this way, you got to throw us a bone. You can't have him going and being the reason why in a game. He's a ref. He should not be a reason why something happens.
The bottom line is whoever the ref is, CJ's got to be smart and be out there for every snap because he's a really good player and can't get himself run.
No, absolutely. And C.J. Gardner-Johnson did talk about the week after he got ejected. He said, frankly, I need to grow up. I cost my team, and I have to be out there every snap, like we said. And I think we've seen improvement with C.J. for sure in that regard as we go back out to Ashley, who's standing by with a virtual question this time.
Yeah, our first virtual question of tonight comes from Josh, and he wants to know, will Cooper DeJean get his first pick this weekend?
Well, Slay did say in the locker room today that it goes in order of the most handsome defensive back. So, of course, Slay said that he was first, then Quinyon Mitchell was second. Sally said Cooper DeJean is the most ugly. That's why he's last. I don't know if that's actually the order it goes in, but that's what he said.
It was funny talking to Cooper DeJean this week because he was asked about Quinyon's interception, and he said he almost dropped it. He didn't want to give him too much credit. Yeah, I think it's possible because we know they're going to spam the middle of the field in this game. No Nakobe Dean. Cooper Kupp plays so many of his snaps inside. He gets a ton of targets. So, yeah, I think the opportunity is going to be there.
Yeah, in the middle of the field, they're going to try to take advantage of that. So, they got Higbee, so it might be Trot Jr. that gets a pick instead of, one of the receivers, So, this will be a game in which, I'm really looking forward to, all the window dressing like you said they like to do, and how these young guys can adjust to it, run with it, and react off of it.
It's really remarkable talking about Cooper. I mean, he got the 3rd most All-Pro votes as a slot corner as a rookie. I mean, that just does not happen, and especially at that position. That's not an easy position to master. He's been unbelievable. I mean, Quignon's been great. I mean, what Cooper's done is remarkable.
Yeah.
And he missed the first 4 games. He wasn't a starter then.
And still made an impact. I mean, completely revamping this Eagles secondary to the point where I remember in training camp we were thinking, okay, what's going to be the Achilles heel of this team? What's going to hinder them from their success? And we all basically said this young defense, how we thought it would take some time, especially with a new defensive scheme. I mean, to the point where BG's saying, yeah, it normally takes a year and a half to master a defensive scheme. This defense is far and away sped up successfully than we imagined in training camp.
I mean, the 5th game.
Yeah, they were set.
The 5th game, they turned the corner. You know, I couldn't believe Cooper came in and was playing as consistent as he's been playing, and everybody else just stepped up to the plate. You know, I was talking to Reuben earlier on, you know, going to like the 6th or 7th game, and I was like, man, why are they so good right now? The first thing he said, Cooper DeJean. Since he's been in the lineup, that defense has really changed.
They haven't lost a game this year when Cooper DeJean and Jalen Hurts both start.
Wow.
Haven't lost a game.
What a duo.
Yeah, and I think they're both going to play. And I think, you know, I talked to a lot of guys on defense about that sped up process that you talked about, and just to have the youngest defense in the league, 7 new starters, a new coordinator, a new staff, and have the #1 defense, 2 rookies, starters, it's unprecedented. And a lot of the older players said these young guys just came in and acted like veterans from the jump, and it's rare. And they put in the time studying, they put in the time practicing, doing extra work. And, you know, so you have guys like Nakobe never started before. Nolan Smith never started before. Obviously, the 2 rookies never started. Zach Bond never played this position before. Right. So you have all these new pieces, but they all took it really seriously. They work together. They're very close as a group, which I think makes a difference. And the result is one of the best defenses I've ever seen.
I think the thing that amazes me about this defense is how well they play together. Like when you're running as much zone coverage as the Eagles run, it's really easy to get kind of lost in the sauce a little bit. But like to see the way they pass off zones so effortlessly, it's amazing. It looks like these guys have played together for a couple years at least. And like how new they are. It's good coaching too. I mean, the players deserve credit, but you know, Vic Fangio gets all the credit. Christian Parker, the defensive backs coach, deserves a lot of it. Bobby King, linebackers coach, Clint Hurt, and Jeremiah Washburn up front. Like, this is a really well-coached defense. It was not last year. We can just call it like it was. It was not. It was a defense that had no idea what they were doing. They went from one of the worst coached defenses in the league to one of the best, and it's shown up all year.
Yeah, I think they did start improving when Coach Matty took over.
But, you know, it's 2 things, really. Number one, they went from one of the oldest defenses to one of the youngest defenses. But with that came how fast they were. You know, they turned into a really fast defense. And then to accompany that, in their zone schemes, like guys would go and run to their zone last year, and there'd be nobody there, nobody attacking there, and they'd be sitting there waiting on anything, you know. Well, these guys now, they go make plays. Like Zach Bond, I remember a play so much where he was sitting down and he actually left his receiver because he watched the quarterback, got deep, almost like he was a cornerback, and got back right enough to make a play on the ball. I was like, man, that wasn't even his man. He passed his man off left and went to another part. To me, I never saw that last year.
Yeah, he did that last week. I mean, that was his interception. Right. It was an unbelievable play. He looks like a guy who's not just been playing linebacker for a decade, but playing linebacker in this system for a decade.
Right.
Everything has been sped up with this defense. It's been fun to watch.
It really has been, and we don't talk enough about as well. Fletcher Cox leaving this off defensive line, and you weren't sure about the Georgia guys being able to step into his shoes, and we've seen that sped up as well. That kind of just everyone answered the bell, especially on this Eagles defense. And Ashley, I hear we got another question out there.
We do, guys, and our next virtual question for Dave and Rube. Kyle wants to know, what's the concern level with Jake? Should we be concerned? Will Nick trust him to go for 3 or keep the offense on and go for it?
Great question, Ash. We talked to Jake Elliott in the locker room today. He says, I'm ready. I've been practicing mentally. He seems like he's ready to go for a playoff atmosphere, but it is worth talking about.
I think it's a concern, and Jake he's been really great in the playoffs, and he deserves the benefit of the doubt. But yeah, I think I'd be lying if I said it wasn't a concern right now.
19 for 19 in his career in the postseason. But yeah, I'm concerned too. I mean, missed extra point. You know, it seems like every week and look, 51-yard field goals are layups these days in the NFL. That's an 85% kick. So the last thing you want to see is this game coming down to Eagles are down 1 with 2 minutes left, and they're on the 33-yard line, and here comes Jake. You're not going to find anybody better at this point of the year, but it's been going on for long enough that it's a concern, and I would expect that they'd at least bring in some competition in the summer. But yeah, it's not ideal.
Yeah, it makes me a little nervous, but I mean, it's also going to impact how the head coach calls calls. You know, he's going to say, do we take this chance here? Do we push this? It used to be a no-brainer. All right, let's go. Jake, go out and kick a 53-yard field goal. But now, I mean, what is he, like 1 for 7?
1 for 7 from 50 and out.
I kind of like the idea that it's going to make Nick more aggressive in some of those situations.
I don't think he needs an excuse, gosh, especially how this season has gone on.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, like, at times, I think Nick does turtle a little bit, and he goes conservative. So in a roundabout way, if this makes him more aggressive in some of those 50-50 type situations, I think if I'm being the optimist, maybe it's a good thing a little bit.
But I mean, you miss an extra point, all of a sudden it's 16-3 instead of 17-3. Now 2 touchdowns beats you, where 2 touchdowns ties you. So you just can't have those.
No, it definitely makes the game way more nerve-wracking.
Where's Mark Simino when you need him?
Right. We don't ask for much around here. And I can't believe we've gone 27 minutes into this live Q&A without mentioning Saquon Barkley and what he did to this Rams team this last matchup. 255 yards, and we talked to Saquon a lot this week about, can you expect that again? And he said, obviously, that's hard to do again. We all know the Rams are going to stack the box. They're going to try to take Saquon Barkley out of this game. But every single week, defenses try to do that, and Saquon said, I'll stay patient, and then I'll just pop one off in the third quarter. No big deal.
Yeah, I mean, he's pretty good.
Doing that.
Thanks for that, Dave.
In that last game.
The wit and wisdom of Dave Zangaro.
Yeah. Only I could give that kind of analysis, right? It's, the thing about him is like what he gets that's beyond what's there. And that was why the Eagles brought him in. It's like, yes, they could get by with a DeAndre Swift or a Miles Sanders, who are good running backs. And that offensive line is going to get them to the Pro Bowl. They did, right? But it's like the extra yards that are there, whether it's Saquon running someone over or hitting the hole so hard that he's getting all these 70-yard touchdowns. He's a special player, and when you pair him with this offensive line, we saw it in that Rams game. I mean, 150 of his yards of those 255 were over expected, which is absurd. Like that doesn't happen. It's one of the highest totals since NFL Next Gen Stats started tracking that. He gets the extra, and like you look at the other sideline, and Kyron Williams, who's a good running back, does not do that. He gets what's there.
0 yards over expected.
Exactly 0. He finished exactly dead 0. Saquon, the tops in the league there. I have no reason to think they're going to stop him in this game.
Yeah,
I wrote a story. Go ahead.
When you look at Saquon, he does things like, I was talking to Ashlyn. She was talking about how she broke the story that he was texting all his offensive linemen, texting them, hey, on this play, what are you thinking on this play? Or do you think I need to hold this a little bit longer on this play? And that's him understanding the running schemes of how these guys are going to block. Like, the way things work out is if a guy goes in motion and the linebackers go somewhere and they're going to a double team and get off on the linebacker, he said, do I need to hold a little bit longer to make sure I can get this linebacker over a little bit more to help you get to him? That way I can break it out the backside. Those are all things that he's texting his offensive lineman. And then, Jordan Allah said he was at dinner with his wife, and she's like, well, who's blowing you up like that? He was like, you know who it is. Is that Saquon again? Yeah, it's Saquon again, Look, he wants to know on this play if we're going to double team, get off fast or slow, And that's just him wanting to be great.
I wrote a story this week about the way he takes care of himself, because it's really unusual for a running back with 400 touches during the season, close to it, to have success in the playoffs. And I have all the numbers in there, not surprisingly, but it's rare. It's really rare. And, he looked so fresh and so, light on his, he just looked powerful and explosive as day one in his, I guess it would have been his 17th game of the year. And that's impressive to me. And everybody talked about how hard he works at it. Obviously, Nick gives them Wednesdays off. The whole season, everything's been geared toward being good at the end of the year, which so many running backs aren't.
Well, what did he say? How did he take care of himself this whole time and not get injured? Knock on wood.
I'm sorry?
What did he say? How does he prioritize that?
Yeah, Lane said he's never seen anybody work so hard. In the training room, and he just never misses a day. Jordan Mailata said there's a group of like 5 guys that are always in there. He mentioned Lane and Saquon and Zach Bond and himself, a couple other guys, but he said he's just
all great players.
All great players, but he just puts in the work that maybe other guys don't. And even Jalen was impressed by it. He said it's amazing how hard he works in there. Preventive stuff, it's not just like if you're banged up, you go get rehab. They call it prehab now, and it's just taking care of yourself before the game, making sure that you're healthy. And I think he's smart about not taking hits that, he doesn't need to take. And Nick gives him rest when he needs to. There's been a couple games where he's come out early and Gainwell's gone in. It all adds up to a guy who's ready to play in week 20.
Right, and we did see the slide in last game where he had that big run, that big hole, and took the slide because frankly just didn't need it. And he did say if that comes again this week, he's going to go ahead and accelerate and get that touchdown. As we go back out to Ashley, who's standing by with another fan question presented by Duncan.
First of all, guys, can we get a shout out for the wardrobe here?
Fabulous.
This is electric. We love it. Maylee and Greg have our next question for everyone.
So, not that it matters because Bird's over everyone, but if and when the Eagles win on Sunday, is there a particular matchup you like better for the NFC Championship game?
Washington.
Great question. Question of the night. Of course, Washington, but I don't think Washington's a piece of... I think Jaden Daniels in this situation, it's almost better. It's like I don't know what to expect with him, and I think the lack of experience could be a good thing for the Commanders.
He's a scary dude.
Yeah.
I think that he gives them a fighter's chance in that game, but yeah, obviously that's the matchup you would want. The Eagles should have beaten them. They almost did with their backup quarterback a few weeks ago. So that's the ideal matchup. I think we all know it's going to be Detroit, and in a way that's fun because it's all like this whole season has been leading to that moment, and I think that would be a heck of a game. We talked about the Eagles' physicality earlier. That's 2 teams that are super physical. That'd be fun to watch.
Yeah, I don't think Washington's quite ready to win in that building. It's a tough building to play in. But when you have a quarterback, he's got something going, something magical at the end of games where he just won't be denied. If it's a close game, watch out because he's going to make plays in the last couple minutes. But I just don't think it. Obviously, if Washington wins, the NFC Championship game is in Philadelphia if the Eagles win. So that's kind of makes the matchup a little better for the Eagles. But like Dave said, they almost beat him with their backup quarterback. But I really don't think Washington has much of a chance to win.
Reuben, I actually have a little side bet.
We do. We have a bet.
Yeah, I think that Washington is going to be closer to Detroit than the Chiefs game is going to be.
Really?
Yeah. So I think Houston will keep that game close just because the Chiefs haven't really been blowing people out. Their offense isn't what it used to be. Their quarterback didn't even make the Pro Bowl for crying out loud. So
yeah, he's not any good.
We bet we bet pavilion lunch on it, right?
Pavilion lunch.
A little pavilion lunch.
You know what? I would like to play Washington, but it really doesn't make a difference. I'm not scared of Washington. I'm really not scared of the Lions either. I just really think that this team has been built well, and this team is built for this moment right now. It's the best roster in the NFL right now, and there's little bits and pieces that you can take from each team and say, all right, they're good at this, they're good at that. But with the way our defense is playing right now, the way our offense can run the ball, and Jalen just making it happen when he needs to happen. It may not be the entirety of the game, but when we need him, he's been there to fulfill that need. So I'm just ready to play against anybody.
Barrett just wants to go to Bourbon Street.
Bourbon Street, baby. Let's go. We going to Bourbon Street, baby. Let's go.
Barrett would.
I want some fried alligator. Let's go.
Of course, that's what he wants. Now it's time for our RAV4 Things to Know, presented by your local tri-state Toyota dealers. What we believe are going to be the keys for the Eagles to win on Sunday over the Rams. Rube, you're up first.
Yeah, I think turnover margin is so big for this team. When they when they win that, they're 25-2 under Nick Sirianni. Now, the two losses, one was the Chiefs back in 2021, the other was Washington just a few weeks ago. When they're so good on defense that when they don't turn the ball over and they force turnovers, it's just really hard to beat this team. And Stafford, he'll put it up for grabs a little bit. He's a really good postseason quarterback, but they could get a couple off him. Certainly, they got 3 last week off a guy who hasn't been throwing a lot of interceptions. So I think that's the key to the game. If they win the turnover margin, they are not losing this game.
I love it. Barrett, what do you think?
I think the war in the trenches, picture that, huh? The war in the trenches. I just think...
Surprised you picked that.
Yeah. Big people beat up little people, and I think those big people of our offensive line will come off the rock, and the war of attrition will win, and we'll start beating up on them, and that'll be the reason why we win the game. And then you look on the opposite side, I just think there's nobody that can block, Jalen Carter. Nolan Smith has become a force on one side, and we know Sweaty has done it for years, on the other side, So I just think we have a better defensive line than their offensive line, and Williams is playing for a contract, so he's going to play lights out.
Yeah, I think for me, it's trying to slow down those 2 receivers. The Rams are a really good team when they have all their top star players out there, and Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp, they might get theirs in this game, but you got to slow them down a little bit. Cooper Kupp in the middle of the field is kind of a nightmare, and then Puka Nacua, you got to bring him down. We saw last week against Josh Jacobs, too many missed tackles because of the way he runs, how hard he runs.
Yeah.
For the Rams, that guy is Puka Nacua. You have to try to bring him down. You have to gang tackle him. He'll run through you, and they line him up in these tight formations. They give him these free releases. You have to make sure that you get to him and you bring him down.
Yes, and for my RAV4 thing, we have the drum line coming in because it is a big topic. Matthew Stafford, I think this Eagles defense has to get to Stafford early and often in this game. I think this playoff experience, that is not something that you want to mess with, and we know that this Eagles team, especially in the regular season, known for their slow starts. I don't think this is the week for that. I think the Rams, and especially Stafford, is playoff experience. I don't want to mess with that. This Eagles defensive line has to get to him. They know that they can pressure him, but don't wait till the second quarter, the first couple of drives. They need a couple of sacks, I think, to establish dominance in this game. And I know Ashley has one more question out there in the fans, presented by Duncan. America runs on Duncan. What do you got, Ash?
You want me to switch over there? This good? Hi, guys. Okay.
Hi.
First of all, I had to shout out Toto right here in his Eagles jersey. But I do have a virtual question. And Tyler wants to know what we're all asking. Did Barrett ice skate? And if not, will he be ice skating tonight?
You know what? I'm going to tell you the truth. I don't think they make skates in 15.5, so that's my saving grace.
Excuses.
They don't make skates that big. I tried this like 9 years ago, and nobody on the Flyers had a size 15.5, so they didn't let me go skate. But hey, I can barely walk and chew bubble gum, so let alone going out there on ice and skating, I just can't. I don't know if I could be able to do it.
But you know the hockey, so
I
you can
know
get
about
out
the
there.
blue line. I just don't know about going out there on that.
I also wear a size 15.5. So I can't
And Dave plays hockey every week, so it exists. It's definitely out there. Rube, what about you? Are you going to get out there?
No, when I was a kid, I tried a few times, did not go well. I retired.
Aw, that's unfortunate.
I'll try again.
I've only ice skated once, and very cool. Scott Hartnell was the one that taught me how to ice skate. How many people can say
Hey,
that?
Scott, yeah.
And I was terrible. Shocking. The Florida girl, terrible at ice skating. I'm never going back out there again. Once you turn, it gets a little dicey, you get a little off balance.
First of all, there are no brakes on skates.
It's terrifying.
That's out. And there's no acceleration, and some guys got to go backwards. I'm good.
Plus, it's cold.
Right, yeah. That's another thing. It's cold.
But we talked about
Not
Matthew.
a lot of warm ice rinks.
No, there definitely isn't. And I hesitate because the entire week I've just talked to a lot of people, and I just feel like the entire city of Philadelphia is so confident about this Eagles team, and they should be. I do think the Eagles win, but I don't think the Rams as a whole are getting enough credit for what they've been able to do this season, to the point where their bye week, they're talking about being sellers. They're talking about going into the trade market, selling half of their team, and now they're here in the divisional round, winning 6 of their last 7 games. I think this game is going to be closer than people think, and I think it's because of Matthew Stafford, Rube. And I know we talked to Slay about this. He said Stafford in the playoffs is a different level, but I think Slay's familiarity with Stafford is also an advantage.
Yeah, and they got to get to him. They've got to, he's a guy that gets rid of the ball quickly, and obviously he's comfort zone with his 2 receivers. But they haven't been great rushing the passer. Obviously, Nolan had a big game Sunday, but they got to get some pressure on Matthew Stafford, or he'll pick him apart.
What do you think, Barrett?
And You're talking about a team that, after we beat them in week 12, they got better after we beat them. So they understand what they had to do to make their offense more successful. They start running the ball, which set up their play action, and that's when they started having some success. I know the Eagles defense won't allow them to run the ball, make them one-dimensional, and then there's nobody that can block Carter one-on-one. And right now, Nolan Smith is getting to a point where he's really becoming a force. And those two line up on the same side, they're going to slide that way. And I think Sweaty has a big game because of that. Sweaty and Williams.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're looking at it, like if you're a pessimist and you're negative and you're trying to figure out like how
All right.
How would it happen if the Eagles were to lose this game? I think it would be because Stafford gets hot. And we've seen him in his career. He's a really streaky player. When he's on, he's on. And we've seen that in some high leverage spots. So I think what you said earlier about getting to him is a big deal in this game. If you let him get into a rhythm early, then he's in rhythm. And then I think that that's the scariest part of that Rams offense and that Rams team is that they have an experienced quarterback who, when he gets hot, is one of the best in the league. You have to do everything you can to throw him off his game.
And he's played a lot of playoff football. He's won a lot of big games, obviously, in the postseason. He's got the 5th highest postseason passer rating in history. He's averaged 300 yards a game in the playoffs. So he's a formidable quarterback. And, you much prefer a matchup between Vic Fangio and a young guy like Jordan Love or even Jaden Daniels, a young guy who hasn't seen a lot. But Stafford's seen it all.
Yes, he has, and that is definitely a key matchup to watch on Sunday. And Ashley Hall is back there out in the crowd with another fan question presented by Duncan. America runs on Duncan.
Guys, there's no question here, but my guy Daniel had to end it right. First of all, look at this outfit.
Fantastic.
Does it get better than this? I don't think so.
Where do you get that
hat? One thing to say. You ready? Go Birds!
Yes. Electric. Awesome. Where do you get that hat? I want 4.
That's a good hat.
That's a good hat.
We might need that on Sunday. It's a little cold.
Dave and I were outside discussing our wardrobe. I wrongfully forgot gloves last week. I won't be forgetting that. A snow game, I'm just excited. I've heard all about this snow game, right, with LaShawn McCoy, and everyone talked about it. I obviously didn't get to witness it, but all the guys in the locker room were talking about it. To relive something like that, I think, is a very big moment for the Eagles.
It could be a lot of fun. On the tunnel we walked to get down to the field at the link, they have a big photo of Shady from that game that you see him there. I mean, it's an all-time moment in this team's history, and to have a potential game like that in the playoffs is a lot of fun.
And Shady will tell you his stats in a second. I mean, he's got to memorize from that game.
Yeah, I mean, but this is what you want. I mean, you want these guys from the West Coast coming to play out in the elements. This is something they're not used to. We are more used to it than they are. And, it's just almost like a mindset, offensive linemen coming out there with no sleeves on. And you'll see guys like, Saquon Barkley, no sleeves on. Even little Smitty will have no sleeves on, So this is the type of elements you want to go out there and play. You want to go out there and impose your will against a team that's more of a finesse team than a hardcore physical team that just wants to just come off and just mash you all.
What did you do? Did you walk out there with no sleeves?
No sleeves.
Did you?
Sleeves, yes.
What's the most snow you ever played in?
No snow. I played in. Well, it was no snow on the field, but it snowed like maybe 2 foot outside, and they had to shovel the snow off. I was actually playing in Detroit, and we went and played up in Green Bay. And it was freezing.
I just think the Eagles are going to embrace the weather. The Rams don't want anything to do. The Rams are going to be like, let's get this over with and get home and warm up. The Eagles are going to be like, we love this.
Yeah.
That's a big difference.
It is a big difference, and Ashley is standing by with another question. What do you got, Ashley?
Philly 007, what a name we have there, wants to know, y'all think Hurts will have more or less than 25 pass attempts?
Good question.
Yes.
That's like average for us, right? 25?
Just
25
about,
to
yeah.
30 pass plays?
30's a lot lately.
Right.
I think he'll. Are we still on? I think he'll be right around 25. If I had to guess, I'd say less.
Really? I think it'll be more. I think that after what happened in the last game against these two teams, I don't know if it's going to work, but I think they will load the box a little bit. I think there's going to be a mission to get A.J. Brown involved early in this game, and I really do like their matchups against those cornerbacks. I think it's a decided advantage in this game.
Yeah, I think as a whole, when you look at the run versus the pass, I think we've seen now, and you can count on this Eagles offense, and especially Kellen Moore and Nick Sirianni, that we've seen them overcorrect, right, this season, to the point where I think we all can bet that A.J. Brown is going to get a target the first drive for this Eagles offense. And I think that you definitely saw that in that Steelers game, right? It was such a major topic that entire game week of, can the Eagles even do this? Can they even pass the ball? And they go, okay, yeah, watch me. I predict that you're going to see a little more of that on Sunday, Rube.
Start the game off for sure.
Yeah.
They're going to try to go.
Give fans what they want.
Yeah, and they're going to give fans what they want, but it's going to help them because they need to get those guys out of the box. They need to get those extra defenders out of the box. What do you want? You want to die a slow death with them coming off the rock and just hitting you in the mouth, or you want to speed it up and have them throw the ball and go down the field and beat you real quick.
All right, Ashley, we got one more question presented by Duncan out there. What do you have for us?
Final fan question of the night, guys. It all ends like this, and Tom just has one question for everyone on the panel. And Carlene, here she is. She's back.
Hi, Carlene.
So what is your final prediction for the game?
Score prediction?
Go.
Score prediction?
I got 24-14 Birds. What do you got, Dave?
Well, I have a little higher than that. I think I picked 31-20 in this game.
Oh.
Wow, I'm going 31-21.
Oh, we're close.
I picked the Rams 45. No, I'm just kidding. I think I went Eagles 29-19.
20?
So we're all about in the same range.
Wow, absolutely.
I think they're going to win by double figures. I think it'll be close for a while, but they're going to pull away in the fourth quarter.
Absolutely. And Sunday is a massive day for the Eagles at Lincoln Financial Field. It's also a massive day for us at NBC Sports and NBC 10. You got Eagles game day kickoff at 9:30. Birds Huddle game day for us, NBC Sports Philadelphia. That kicks off at 1:30. Pre-game live at 2 o'clock. And this game on Sunday Night Football at 3 o'clock, NBC 10. You can watch the game there and then flip it over after the game, NBC Sports Philadelphia Plus. Eagles game day final. Whew. We got a big day at NBC, I'll tell you what.
Huge day. We're going to get it going. Got to wake up early. You got to tailgate, so when that bus comes in and they're looking all cold, we'll let number 8 know. He shouldn't have said what he said.
Yes.
Shouldn't have said it.
Shouldn't have said it. And especially Barrett walks through that parking lot. He gets everyone going. And I feel like every single week they're getting there earlier and earlier. And they're definitely drinking a little bit more.
Just a little bit.
As they should be.
The natives should be unrestless.
I love it. Thanks so much for tuning into this Eagles Playoffs Q&A live here, presented by Toyota, proud sponsor of the Philadelphia Eagles and the NFL. We'll see you on Sunday. So excited for this match against the Los Angeles Rams at Lincoln Financial Field at 3 o'clock. We will see you at the Link Sunday afternoon. Thanks so much for tuning in.
Let's go, bro.